Jason Clark opened his eyes and saw nothing but darkness. His head hurt, and the air smelled strange, like metal and flowers mixed together. He lay still for a moment, trying to remember what had happened. Slowly, he realized he was lying on cold ground. The last thing he remembered was flying his small survey shuttle over the mountains of a distant planet. Then there had been a bright light and a terrible noise. After that, nothing. He sat up and felt his chest. His suit was torn, but he was alive. Small lights flickered above him, and when his eyes adjusted, he saw he was inside some kind of large hall. The walls glowed faintly with blue lines that seemed to move like rivers of light. Where am I? He whispered to himself. His voice echoed. He stood and took a step forward, then another. His legs felt weak, but he forced himself to walk. Soon he came to a circle of bright light in the center of the hall. He stopped there, feeling very small and alone. Then he heard a sound behind him. A door he hadn't noticed before opened with a soft hiss. He turned and froze. 9 figures entered the hall. Moving slowly and gracefully, they were tall, taller than any human he had seen, and their shapes were strange yet beautiful. Some of them wore long robes that shimmered like water. Others were covered in armor that sparkled like stars. Their eyes glowed faintly in different colors: green, gold, silver, and even purple. Jason stepped back as they came closer. He swallowed hard and tried to speak, but no words came. The 9 figures stopped a few feet away from him and stood in a perfect circle. One of them, a woman with hair that looked like flowing silver threads, spoke first. "You are awake," she said in a calm, deep voice. "Good. You are stronger than we thought." Jason looked around at them. Who are you? Where am I? Another figure, this one wearing dark green robes and a crown of black metal, tilted her head. Her eyes glowed gold. "You are on the world of the 9 thrones," she said. "You stand in the Hall of Queens." Jason frowned. "Queens? All of you?" A third woman, her skin shining like polished stone, smiled faintly. "Yes," she said. "We are the rulers of 9 great empires, and you, human, have been chosen." Jason blinked. Chosen for what? The one with the silver hair stepped closer. Her gaze was piercing but not cruel. "You are the one foretold, the only being who can unite our bloodlines and bring peace to the stars. You will give us the air we need." Jason's mouth went dry. He shook his head slowly, not sure he understood. "Air? What are you talking about?" The queens glanced at each other. One of them, dressed in robes that shimmered with a rainbow of colors, laughed softly. "He does not know," she said. Her voice was light and mocking. "Enough," the silver-haired queen said firmly. She looked at Jason again. "You were brought here because our worlds are at war. For centuries, we have fought and spilled blood. But the prophecy says, a human, a man of earth, will bring unity through his seed. We have waited for you." Jason stared at them in disbelief. This has to be a mistake. I'm just a survey engineer. I fix machines and map mountains. I'm not whatever you think I am." The queen with the golden eyes smiled. It was not a kind smile, but it was confident. "You cannot run from what you are. We have tested thousands of humans before you. None survived the journey. Only you did. Only you are strong enough." Jason took a step back. "I didn't agree to this. I don't even know you." The queen laughed again. "You will know us soon enough." They began to move closer, each one standing a little taller, their eyes fixed on him. He felt like an animal surrounded by hunters, though none of them made a move to hurt him. "You have a choice," the silver-haired queen said. "You will choose one of us to bear your heir. We will compete for your favor. You will decide who is worthy." Jason stared at her, then at the others. You want me to choose?" The queen with skin like stone nodded, "Yes. The competition begins now." Jason felt his knees weaken. He took a deep breath and tried to clear his head. This had to be a dream. It couldn't be real, but the air smelled too sharp to be a dream. The cold floor under his boots felt too solid. The glowing walls, the watching eyes of the queens, everything was too real. He clenched his fists at his sides. I don't even know your names," he said quietly. The silver-haired queen stepped even closer. Her eyes softened just a little. "Then let us begin there," she said. "I am Lyris." One by one, the others followed. The golden-eyed queen in green robes said, "I am Aura." The stone-skinned queen spoke, "I am Vela." The rainbow-robed queen bowed slightly and said, "I am Trin." Another, with hair like red fire and armor of black glass, said, "I am Melina." A tall figure with sharp silver armor and dark blue eyes said, "I am Jara." Another queen, dressed in white and grey with quiet strength in her eyes, said, "I am Quinn." The smallest of them, whose presence still filled the room with power, said, "I am Alira." The last, whose golden hair seemed to glow softly, said, "And I am Sno." Jason looked at each of them, trying to memorize their names and faces. They all stood with pride, but he saw something else in their eyes, something like hunger and something like sadness. He straightened his back and took another breath. "I'm Jason," he said finally. "Jason Clark." The 9 queens nodded. As one, as though the name pleased them. Lyris smiled faintly and said, "Then let the competition begin, Jason Clark of Earth." He didn't move. He didn't speak. He just stood there in the circle of light, 9 pairs of eyes watching him, waiting. And for the first time in his life, he felt truly alone, and yet at the center of everything. Jason woke the next morning to soft music and a strange warm light filling the room. He opened his eyes and found himself lying on a bed that was bigger than anything he had ever seen. The sheets were smooth like silk, but glowed faintly, and the air smelled sweet, like flowers in spring. He sat up slowly and rubbed his eyes. Then he remembered the queens, the hall, their strange words about heirs and prophecy. He swung his legs over the edge of the bed and stood. His boots sank a little into the soft floor, but it held his weight. The walls of the room shimmered like water, and he saw faint patterns of stars above him. A small sound came from the door. It slid open without a touch, and a figure entered. It was one of the queens, Lyris, the one with silver hair. She wore a long gown that looked like it was made of moonlight, and she held her head high as she came closer. "Good morning, Jason." "Clark," she said in her calm voice. Jason nodded. "Morning. Where am I now?" Lyris smiled faintly. "You are in the guest chambers of the palace. Today begins the challenge. Each of us will show you what we can offer. You will see our worlds, our ways, our strength. Then you will choose." Jason frowned. "You're serious about this?" "We do not play games," Lyris said. Before he could reply, the door opened again, and another queen stepped in. This one wore a long robe of green that shimmered like leaves in the sun. Her golden eyes sparkled as she looked at Jason. "You're wasting his time, Lyris," she said. I should go first. I have prepared the perfect welcome. Lyris turned slightly, her voice colder now. Patience, Aura. We agreed to draw lots. I won. You will wait your turn. Aura crossed her arms and narrowed her eyes, but she said nothing more. She turned and left the room without another word. Jason sighed and rubbed his face. So this is really happening. You're all going to compete, Lyris nodded. Yes. You are not here as a prisoner, Jason. You are the chosen human. It is your right to choose among us. He shook his head. I never asked for this. I don't even know you. Lyris tilted her head, her silver hair catching the light. Then today you will begin to know me. She led him through the halls of the palace. They passed high windows that opened to strange gardens filled with glowing trees and streams of golden water. Small creatures darted between the branches, and the air was full of quiet songs. Jason couldn't help but stop and stare at everything. This is beautiful, he said softly. Lyris glanced at him with a small smile. Thank you. This is only a small part of my world, but it is dear to me, and it could be yours if you chose me. He looked at her but didn't answer. She led him outside, where a smooth platform waited. It rose into the air with a soft hum, and soon they were flying over endless green fields and silver rivers. Below them, workers moved gracefully through the fields, harvesting bright fruits that glowed faintly in the light. Far in the distance, mountains rose high and white, with strange birds circling their peaks. Lyris watched him as he leaned against the railing and stared at the view. My people have built this world over thousands of years, she said. We brought peace to the wildlands, and we made it bloom. I would share all of this with you. Our heir would rule this world, and more. Jason turned to her. Why me? I don't understand. I'm not special. You are, she said simply. You survived the journey here. You carry the seed that can unite us. None of us can have children with another queen, only with you. He shook his head. It doesn't feel real. She placed her hand lightly on his arm. Her touch was warm and steady. You do not need to decide now. See all of us, then choose with your heart. They returned to the palace by late afternoon. Jason was led back to his room, where food had been set out. Fruits, breads, and something that smelled like roasted meat. He sat and ate in silence, thinking about everything he had seen. After a while, the door opened again. This time it was Aura, the queen, in green. She smiled as she entered. The next day, Jason woke up with a headache. The strange dreams he had during the night lingered in his mind. He had seen the queens, all of them, standing before him, each with a look of hope, but each one also filled with something deeper, something darker. He sat up slowly and rubbed his temples. The weight of what was happening felt even heavier now. A soft knock sounded at his door. Come in, Jason said, his voice a little rough. The door slid open, and Lauren stepped inside. She was the only person here who seemed like she might understand. Lauren had been with him since the crash, though she had stayed in the shadows, watching the queens and their strange world from a distance. You okay? She asked, her voice quiet. Jason nodded, but didn't say anything at first. He looked out the window at the strange world below, glowing mountains and purple skies that seemed far too peaceful for what he had just experienced. This is insane. Lauren, he said finally, they want me to pick one of them, two, to choose an heir. I never asked for any of this. Lauren leaned against the wall, crossing her arms. I know, but you're here now, Jason, and you're the only one who can decide. You're their only chance. He turned to her, his eyes tired. But how can I choose between them? I don't even know them. They're all so different. Lauren smiled softly. Yeah, that's the problem. But you have to find a way to understand them. Not just their worlds, but who they really are inside. Jason thought about her words. How could he choose? Lyris, with her peaceful gardens and calm strength. Aura, with her fire and power. They were both so different, yet both offered him something he couldn't ignore. You're right, he said finally. But I don't know where to start. They all want something from me, but I don't even know what I want. Lauren stepped forward. You need to take a step back. Forget about the competition for a minute. Just think about who they are as people. That's the only way to make the right choice. Jason looked at her. You make it sound so simple. It's not simple, but it's the only way forward. You've been thrown into this mess, Jason, but you're still in control. You just need to see past the games they're playing. He nodded slowly. I'll try, but it's hard to see past all the pressure. I know, Lauren said, but you don't have to do it alone. With that, she left him alone to think. Jason sat in silence for a while, thinking about everything that had happened. The strange palace, the queens, the beauty of their worlds, and the power they held. But as he thought about them more, he started to see something else. Lyris, for all her calm beauty, had a deep loneliness in her eyes. She had tried to show him peace, to offer him a life of quiet strength. But maybe that wasn't what he needed. Maybe peace wasn't enough. Then there was Aura. Her world was harsh, filled with battles and warriors. Her eyes had sparkled with confidence, but beneath that, there was something darker, a hunger for power, perhaps. Could he trust her to choose peace over war? But there was more. Jason remembered the quiet queen with the stone-like skin, Vela. She hadn't spoken much, but when she did, her voice was deep and strong. She hadn't tried to impress him with riches or power. Instead, she had simply shown him her world, a place where everything was built on solid ground, and nothing could easily be destroyed. He wondered about her. What was her true motive? Was it power or something more? That afternoon, Jason was called again. This time it was Vela. She stood waiting at his door, her eyes calm and steady. Are you ready, human? She asked quietly. Jason took a deep breath and nodded. Yeah, I'm ready. They walked together through the halls of the palace once more, this time to a different part of the world. The air grew cooler as they traveled, and the ground beneath their feet became rocky. Soon, they reached a large platform. Vela gestured for him to follow her, and they stepped onto it. The platform hummed to life, lifting them high above the ground. They flew over jagged cliffs and deep valleys, and Jason couldn't help but admire the wild beauty of the land below. Them great stone cities rose from the earth like ancient giants. The people there moved with purpose, each step steady and sure. The landscape was harsh but beautiful, a place where only the strong survived. As they flew, Vela spoke. My people have always known the strength of the earth. We build not for beauty, but for survival. Our cities stand against the storms and the time that wears away everything else. Jason listened, his eyes fixed on the land below. It's beautiful in its own way, he said. She nodded. Beauty is often hidden beneath the surface. My people know that better than anyone. They landed near one of the great cities, and Vela led him through its streets. The air was thick with the smell of stone and metal, and the people who walked past were tall and strong, their eyes filled with quiet strength. "This is my world," Vela said. "It is not for everyone. We value strength above all else, but we also understand the need for balance. Our cities are not just walls of stone. They are built with care, with respect for the earth." Jason stopped and looked at her. "It's different from Lyris's world. It's harder, but it feels real." "Yes," she said, her voice soft. "It is real, and it is strong. If you choose me, you will never face weakness. But you will also learn that strength alone is not enough." Jason nodded slowly, taking it all in. He could see what she meant. Her world was harsh, but there was something honest about it. There was a strength in the way they lived, and in the way Vela carried herself as they returned to the palace. Jason's mind was filled with thoughts of Vela, Lyris, and Aura. Each of them had their own strengths and flaws. Each of them offered something different. But how could he choose? How could he decide which one was right for him? That night, as he lay in bed, he realized the truth. No matter which queen he chose, the decision would change everything. And he couldn't go back. He didn't have all the answers yet. But one thing was clear. He would have to learn to see them not just as queens, but as people. And he would have to choose wisely. The next morning, Jason felt different. The weight of the queen's eyes on him didn't feel as heavy now. Instead, he felt more ... aware. Aware of what he had to do, and more certain that he couldn't rush this decision. He had to understand each of them fully before he could make a choice. When the time came, it wasn't Lyris or Aura who arrived at his door. But Jason didn't know much about her yet. She was one of the quieter queens, the one with the pale grey eyes and silver armor. She didn't speak much, and when she did, her words were always carefully chosen. "Are you ready, Jason?" she asked in a calm voice, her tone gentle, yet strong. Jason nodded, "Ready as I'll ever be." Quinn didn't smile, but she looked at him with an expression that seemed to say she understood more than most. Without waiting for him to follow, she turned and walked out of the room. He followed her down a different corridor in the palace, one he hadn't seen before. It was quieter here, the walls smooth and dark, giving the place an almost mysterious feel. They came to a large door that opened as they approached. Inside was a room filled with what looked like ancient books and scrolls. The shelves stretched high into the air, and the air smelled faintly of dust and old paper. "This is my world," Quinn said, turning to face him. "It is built on knowledge. Our strength comes from understanding, from learning the secrets of the universe." Jason looked around at the walls of books. "It's beautiful," he said softly. "It is," Quinn agreed. "My people value wisdom. Above all else, we believe that with knowledge there is no problem we cannot solve. We believe in the power of the mind." She walked to one of the shelves and pulled down a thick scroll. She unrolled it, revealing complex symbols and drawings, a language Jason couldn't understand. "This is our history," Quinn said. "It tells the story of our people, of how we gained power and wisdom. We are a peaceful people, but we do not shy away from war when it is necessary. We fight to protect knowledge, to protect the truth." Jason stepped closer, curious. "So, it's not all peaceful. Peace is our goal, but not all of us follow the same path. Some of my people believe in using force to protect our way of life, but we must also respect our enemies, understand them. Only then can we truly defeat them." Jason nodded slowly. He was starting to see a different side to Quinn. She wasn't just a queen with a book of rules. She was a person who valued understanding, even in battle. "So, you believe in solving problems with wisdom?" he asked. "Yes," she said, her voice steady. "But we also know that wisdom alone is not enough. We need the courage to act when the time comes. We need to make hard decisions, even when they hurt." Jason thought about this for a moment. "It sounds like you believe in balance, in finding the right answer, even if it means sacrifice." Quinn's eyes softened, just for a moment. "Yes, balance is the key, but it is not always easy to find." She led him through the room to a small table in the center. On the table was a device that looked like a strange machine with buttons and glowing lights. "This is a tool of my people," Quinn explained. "It can calculate solutions to problems, even those that seem impossible. With it, we have found ways to bring peace to many worlds." Jason leaned closer to the machine, intrigued. "It looks like something from a science fiction novel." Quinn smiled slightly. "It may look strange to you, but it is a part of who we are. Knowledge, technology, and understanding. They are the foundation of our power." He stared at the device, then looked back at her. The next few days felt like they passed in a blur. Jason couldn't shake the feeling that he was being pulled in every direction. The queens, each with their own strengths and desires, had given him a glimpse into their worlds, but the choice was still far from clear. He woke up each morning with a sense of weight on his shoulders. The palace, beautiful as it was, felt like a cage now. The queens came and went, each trying to prove that she was the one who could offer him the future he needed. But none of their promises felt real. Today, it was Vela's turn. He had seen her world of strength and resilience, but there was still so much he didn't understand. The weight of the decision pressed on him, and he had to face it sooner or later. As he sat down to breakfast in his room, the door slid open. Vela stood there, as strong and unyielding as ever. Her eyes were calm, but there was something deeper in them. Something that spoke of understanding and perhaps a willingness to accept the truth. "Jason," she said, her voice as steady as always. "Today, I want to show you the heart of my people." He stood up and nodded. "I'm ready." They walked through the halls once again, their footsteps echoing in the quiet palace. This time, Vela didn't speak much. She led him to a large courtyard, where a group of her people were working. The workers were building something large, a structure made of stone and metal, designed to withstand the harshest of storms. Jason watched as they worked together, moving with strength and purpose, their faces focused on the task at hand. There was no waste here, no distractions, just the quiet, steady rhythm of work. "This is how we live," Vela said, watching him carefully. "We build, we create, we endure. Our strength comes from what we can create and what we can protect." Jason looked around, taking in the scene. It wasn't the beauty of Lyriss's gardens or the knowledge of Quinn's books. It wasn't the wild power of Aura's people. It was something different. It was hard. It was real. "It's impressive," he said, his voice thoughtful, "but it's also heavy. It's all about strength." Vela nodded. "Strength is not just about fighting. It's about survival. We build our homes, our cities, and our future. We do it because we know that nothing is guaranteed. Only strength can keep us safe." He thought about her words. "But don't you ever get tired? Don't you ever wish for something more peaceful?" Vela's gaze softened, but only slightly. Peace is a luxury we can't afford. We have seen the storms, the wars. We have lost much. But in that loss, we have gained strength. Strength to rebuild. Strength to endure. Jason looked at the workers again. They were focused, their hands steady as they shaped the stone. Their lives were built on strength, and they didn't question it. It was a way of life, one that Jason was starting to understand, but not fully embrace. So, if I choose you, ... We'd be focused on surviving, he asked. We would be focused on living, Vela replied, on building a future that can withstand anything, not just for ourselves, but for the generations that will come after us. Jason was quiet for a moment, taking it all in. He had never seen a people so dedicated to the idea of survival, of strength. It wasn't about power for the sake of power. It was about ensuring that the world didn't break under the weight of the unknown. It's a powerful way of life, Jason said finally, but I'm not sure it's the right fit for me. Vela's expression didn't change. She was used. To this, you are right to question it. Strength is not for everyone, but it is what we offer. They stood in silence for a few moments, watching the workers as they continued their task. Jason couldn't help but feel the weight of the choice growing heavier. Each queen had shown him a different path, each with its own appeal, but also its own sacrifices. They left the courtyard and walked back to the palace. Jason's mind was racing. Strength, knowledge, beauty, power. Each path was different, but none of them seemed perfect. There was something missing from each of them, something he couldn't quite put his finger on. That evening, as he sat in his room, he couldn't stop thinking about his conversation with Vela. Her world was about survival, about building something that could last. It was hard, but it was real. It was the opposite of the world Lyris had shown him, with its peace and beauty. It was the opposite of the knowledge Quinn offered, with its wisdom and understanding. And it was the opposite of the wild power Aura had shown him, where strength was everything. But maybe that was what he needed to understand. Each queen's world had its own truth. Each had something to offer, but also something to sacrifice. He stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the strange world below. The sky was dark now, filled with stars that seemed to stretch on forever. It was a beautiful sight, but it felt far away, distant. What am I supposed to do? He whispered to himself. How do I choose? He didn't have an answer, not yet, but he knew one thing for sure. He couldn't make this choice without understanding more about himself, about what he truly wanted, and he wasn't sure if he was ready to face that yet. The next morning, as he prepared for another day with the queens, he made a decision. He wouldn't rush the choice. He would take his time. He would spend more time with each of them, not as a competitor, but as someone who truly wanted to understand what they offered, what they valued, and what they could bring to the table. He was getting closer, he knew that, but for now, he had to keep searching. The right choice would come when the time was right, and until then, he would keep learning. Jason woke early the next morning, but something felt wrong. The air in the palace was heavy, and the usual soft music in the halls was gone. He sat up, in bed, and listened. It was quiet, too quiet. He stood and walked to the door. As soon as it opened, he saw Lauren waiting for him. Her face was pale and her eyes wide. "There's trouble," she whispered. Jason frowned. What kind of trouble? Lauren glanced down the hallway before speaking. One of the queens. She's planning something. A coup, maybe. I don't know all the details, but I heard guards talking last night. They said she wants to take you by force. Jason's chest tightened. Who, Quinn? Lauren said. She's hiding it well, but she's been moving her people into position. All week, they're waiting for her signal. Jason shook his head. That doesn't make sense. She seemed calm. She talked about wisdom and balance. Maybe that was just an act, Lauren said. She wants the power, just like the rest of them, but she's not waiting for you to choose. She wants to win no matter what. Jason ran a hand through his. Heir. He had known this would be hard, but he hadn't expected this. He thought he would have time to decide. Now it seemed that choice might be taken away from him. Lauren leaned closer. We need to leave now, before it's too late. Jason hesitated. Then he shook his head. I can't just run. If I disappear, it might start a war between them. They'll all blame each other. Before Lauren could reply, footsteps echoed. In the hallway, Jason turned to see two queens walking toward him. It was Lyris and Trin. Lyris looked as calm as ever, but Trin's sharp eyes flashed with anger. We need to talk. Trin said, her voice low and urgent. Lyris nodded in agreement. You are in danger, Jason, she said. Quinn is making her move tonight. She has already bribed some of the guards. If you stay here, you won't have a choice anymore. We want to help you, Trin added. I don't like you much, but I won't let her take you like some prize without a fight. Jason blinked at them, surprised. You two are working together. I thought you hated each other. Trin gave a sharp laugh. We still do, but even I have limits. If she wins this way, then none of us have any honor left. I won't let that happen. Lyris stepped forward. There is a way out. The catacombs below the palace. They are old and hidden. We can take you there before she makes her move. You'll be safe until we can stop her. Jason hesitated. He didn't trust either of them completely, but he didn't see another choice. All right, he said. Let's go. Lyris and Trin led the way through the dark hallways of the palace. Lauren followed close behind, her eyes sharp and watchful. The further they went, the colder the air became. Soon they reached a small door hidden behind a tapestry. Pushed it open, revealing a steep staircase that led down into darkness. This way, she said. Jason took a deep breath and followed them down. The air smelled of dust and stone. The walls were rough and cold. Their footsteps echoed as they descended deeper and deeper. Finally, they reached the bottom. It was a vast underground chamber, lit only by faint glowing stones in the walls. Ancient carvings covered the stone, telling stories of wars and peace, kings and queens, and a strange figure that looked like a human standing among them. Jason stopped and stared at the carvings. What is this place? Lyris stepped beside him. The old archives. This was built long before any of us were born, before the 9 queens, before the wars. Trin crossed her arms and looked at the walls. The prophecy is written here, the one that brought you to us. It says, a human will come to unite the bloodlines and bring peace to the stars. Jason moved closer to the carvings. He saw the figure of the human again, standing between 9 queens, holding a scroll. Lauren stepped up and traced her fingers over the stone. Look, she whispered. He's not holding a sword. He's holding this. Lyris nodded. The scroll. It is said to hold the truth about the prophecy. Jason looked at her. Where is it now? Lyris walked to a pedestal at the far end of the room. She pressed her hand to it, and a hidden compartment opened